Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it. I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network,
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
How? Here's an amazing question. Simple, but so hard, you know. Here's the question. Today on Truth Talk Live, how do you share Christ? How do you do that? I mean, what are the words that you use? What's your opening line? Is there a strategy that's involved in it? Or is it that you're just so gifted that you can walk up to people and begin to enter in a conversation and, you know, go with whatever comes your way? How do you do that? 866, the number to call in and share. And believe me, I would love to hear it at 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. You know, in the car business, for 40 years, one of the things I did was train car salesmen, and I probably trained over 1,000 of them. And one of the most difficult thing any salesman can do is that initial 5 or 10 seconds of what we would call the meet and greet. And so we had this whole thing we taught, which was the road to the sale, where you try to find this opening line or something to where you began to establish common ground and you began to, you know, have some type of a discussion that made sense. How do you do that? So we're so blessed, as always, to have with us Dr. Date the Word Carson, and not only Dr. Date the Word Carson today, but we have Dr. Date the Word Jr., Clayton Carson, who recently had an opportunity to employ the now famous Date the Word, Share Christ strategy, which to me is just so cool and so amazing. But while you're listening to this, be dialing 866-348-7884. So, Doc, this is really straightforward. Just how does it go?
Well, as you said, you need to have some way of getting that opening line going. And Date the Word, we connect today's date to God's Word. Today is 11/6, for instance, and we went with Hebrews 11:6, that without faith it's impossible to please God. He who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he's a reward of those who diligently seek him. So we have that verse for every date, and then part of that is one of the things we can do is we can ask people when is their birthday. And today we had lunch here. I'm down in Sarasota, Florida, and having lunch. A man named John. I said, "Wow, what a great name! Right from the Bible. When's your birthday?" He said 123, and so we pulled up on the app the verses for 123, and Matthew 123 says that God sent his son, and he will be called Emmanuel, God with us. And he just thought that was the greatest thing. Wow, what a great verse for my birthday. He wanted to know when my birthday was. I told him 12/23, and he said, "Sounds like my verse is better for you because it's a Christmas verse." So we had a good little conversation there. But then we wanted to make this evangelistic, and any ministry ought to have a gospel-centered part of what they're doing, not just equipping saints, but evangelizing sinners. And so we got to thinking on it that we could follow up the question, when's your birthday, with do you have a date for your second birth? And if they don't know what that is, you immediately have the opportunity to share that Jesus said in John 3:3, you must be born again. And then you go from there to share the gospel. And so it's just a tool. That's how we look at it. It's just a tool to open up a gospel conversation.
That's so cool. And so, you know, the whole idea is that I'm sure that you listening, you know, have had a chance to share it, or you have some strategy that you were taught or that you use, And we would love to hear it. I mean, we just really would, and love to hear the fruit of that. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And really cool, as I said, we have Dr. Date the Word Jr. with us, who employed this. He's actually a pastor himself, is Clayton Carson. And you got a chance, Clayton, to employ this during your trunk or treat at your church, from what I hear.
Yes, absolutely. I'm huge on evangelism. That comes from being raised by my dad.
I can imagine.
I learned it early, and then I'm at seminary doing my PhD work, got my MDiv at Mid-America, where we're required to evangelize 15 times a semester or we fail all our classes.
Wow.
And so it's huge. So when I started pastoring here at Range Hills, I went, all right, we need to be evangelizing. And a method is important, like you're talking about. But what I encourage my people with, it's not about the method, it's about the outcome. If you share the gospel with someone, you've succeeded. That's the goal. And so it was, all right, let's find a good method that I can teach simply to my people. It's not about just Clayton sharing the gospel. I want every single person in my church sharing the gospel. So we adopted the Date the Word method because it was simple. We already had tracks developed with Date the Word, and so we used those. And with it, I had at our trunk or treat a brand new believer. He's been saved for about 2 months. Get to share the gospel with someone. First time he shared the gospel with someone, because it's such a simple method, and it's guaranteed to get you to the gospel. And so that's what we did. We ended up getting to, in about a 2-hour window, got to share the gospel 39 times with 5 professions of faith.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah, it's just, and so can you walk us through from your perspective, Clayton, kind of how those people employed that?
Yeah, so what we did at our trunk or treat was we set up a specific table that we have a sign that says, "When's your birthday?" And
cool.
We're straightforward about it. One of the, if you're a pastor and you're listening, something I encourage you with is, remember, evangelism doesn't just happen. You have to make it happen. And so that's what we did. We didn't say, hey, if you have an opportunity, share the gospel. We set up a table to share the gospel. And I just kept bringing different people in. I love evangelism. I would describe it the way that it's like going fishing with my dad. My dad loves having all the lines in the water, and eventually he'll give you a pole, but he wants to be the first one to make a catch. I'm kind of like that with evangelism. I want to be the one sharing the gospel, and then I'll bring some other people in. And we just had table, and so we had about 5 different people at different times. My children's minister is probably one of the best children's ministers in America. I'm not going to tell you his name because the pastor on here might try and steal him from me.
I would.
And he talked to all the kids. He was talking to anyone 7 and under, which it was a lot. He was doing the Date the Word evangelism with them, and he was so tactful and so wise in how to share that. But then having some young believers involved, my wife Ashley got involved as well, and it was just we intended to share the gospel. In the same way they went around to our trunks to get candy, they came to get their birthday verse, and we used that to share the gospel.
That is just awesome. Isn't it amazing how God gives you wisdom in these particular, but I'm guessing there was a lot of prayer that went into that as well, Clayton. And I know that, clearly God's the one that is going to change hearts. And so was there a prayer strategy that went along with it?
It's a lot of prayer. My context is Fraser, Memphis, and Fraser is just a really beat up community. And so honestly, I went in telling the people, if no one even came to our trunk or treat, we would praise the Lord because we got to go
to a break, Clayton, but we come back. We would love to hear how you do it. How do you share Christ? 866-348-7884. We'll be right back. with more on how to share Christ.
Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's question, and boy, would I love to hear your call. 866-348-7884 is the number to begin to call if you are willing to share with us. How do you share? What are the words that you use? What is this strategy, so to speak, or just something that you have in your back pocket to go, man, I would really love to share Christ. The Holy Spirit's telling me, what do I say? You know, what are the words that come to mind? And I'll never forget that, we were always looking for that in the car business. And I ran across, it was actually Royce Reynolds' nephew. His name was Phil Marlin, and he had the best opening line I ever saw. He would just simply ask people, he would go, where are you from? And that's very, it's very open. Like anybody could answer, where are you from? And then after they would tell him wherever he was from, he came back with this little originally. And when he used the word originally, then the people would go where they were really from. And then naturally, he lived or had somebody that lived every place in the country, and he would begin to dig into wherever it was that they were, and again, it was just some way to enter into a conversation with people that doesn't fear like, you're trying to mess with them in some way. And, that's the thing I like about what you guys are talking about, Dr. Carson, that by just asking when your birthday is, it's totally, just casual, right? Dwayne?
Yep. It's just a casual conversation where you're just able to, hey, when's your birthday? And like flight attendant. I do it with the Amazon people when they drop off stuff at the house. Hey, you got a quick minute? Hey, tell me when your birthday is. And it's just an easy lead-in, but you always have in the back of your mind, based on how they respond when you give the verse, all right, what do I do next?
Right.
Are they excited about what they just read, they just saw, they just heard? Or is there a question mark like, I don't know. I shared this with a person at a hotel in Montana, and I said, now, I don't know if you read a Bible or not, but I've got a great Bible verse for you. And she said, sir, I've never read a Bible verse in my life. And for her birthday verse, it was the first time she'd ever read a Bible verse.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so, Clayton, you were describing, how you led into this event with your church for the trunk or treat and the prayer that was involved. And I loved what you were saying, that you guys were saying, hey, if we don't get anybody to come to our trunk or treat, and carry on with your thought there. I'm sorry we got you off.
Yeah. I was very worried that no one would show up, and I was encouraging my people. The Lord's pleased by just us showing up. But then the Lord provides so many people, and beforehand, it was just, I spent a lot of time in prayer, was encouraging the people to pray. I have ministers who are more faithful than I am. They have more faith than I do in anything we do. And that's always exciting. And it was really encouraging them. But we started this, it wasn't trunk or treat. We started doing birthday verse evangelism back in March, of just going to a park and doing it. And so every time we do it, we pray about it. We've adopted as our official church method of when we're going out evangelizing, this is what we're going to do. And it's really simple, because if you have the Date the Word app, you have all the birthday verses. And so just praying about those things when people came by. The hard part is a lot of the dates have multiple verses, and you're trying to figure out quickly which one to choose. And what I encouraged my people with is choose whichever one seems fitting, and then just get to the next question. Because our conversation we don't want it to be about the birthday verse necessarily. We want it to be about the gospel. And the birthday verse might just be the way into it. And sometimes you get a birthday verse that's great. Other times you get a birthday verse that's going to be taken very wrong if they don't understand what that means. And you just jump right into the gospel with it.
That's beautiful. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, his mom, my wife, her birthday verse is Hebrews 9:27. Man is appointed once to die, and then comes the judgment. So when someone says September the 27th, 9:27, it might not be the best thing to tell them Hebrews 9:27. That might scare them a little too much. Although it's the truth, it's a little. My wife, Benita, said,
it's going to be
I need
a great conversation starter, Doc. I mean,
I think that one's the perfect one. More so when it's a verse in Proverbs is when I find difficulty, because Proverbs will talk about finance, and every now and then, especially the context I'm in, there's so much prosperity gospel in Memphis. Every now and then you read Proverbs out of context, and prosperity gospel loves to take that. And so it's really important to, when you're reading, you got to be on your toes a bit. Okay, then I need to explain this better to then move to the gospel.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. We got Jamal is in Winston-Salem. And so, Jamal, what say you, my friend? How do you share Christ? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good day, Dilmore, and to Dr. Carson and Dr. Carson Jr. Good day to you as well. Thank you for taking my call as usual. The way I share the gospel or talk about Jesus is pretty simple. And I have to give credit to Stu Epperson because he gave me a good tagline. He just said, ask him, what do you think about Jesus? And I'm like, wow, that's great. That's easy. I could do that. And that way it's not so much doctrine. I don't have to remember any kind of sermon or any notes or anything. I just can have a conversation. Kind of what you said about where you're from.
So what do people say when you use that, Jamal?
Usually the responses have been pretty positive. Some people will say, well, he's kind of okay, or no, I'm rocking with Jesus. Usually I have a nice conversation after I ask that question. It's not, well, let me back up a little bit. I have never gotten a negative response or a nasty or a confrontational response. Now, I know it can exist, but I have not come in contact with that yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And being that it comes from my boss, it's even better. Like, hey. And there's one thing that Stu has, but people that know him realize that, he will. It doesn't matter where he is, if he's at the gas station or wherever in the world he is. I can assure you, if he stopped at a stoplight, don't be one bit surprised if you're sitting with him in the car that the window on your side's rolling down and he's telling the people to roll down their window with his finger. And he has, I can't tell you the number of times I've sat there. This is a little awkward, Stu, just saying, but doesn't matter, man.
No fear.
He's got to be himself.
My passenger wants to tell you about Jesus.
Oh yeah, he'll do that in a heartbeat.
Tell him. That's a method of wedding.
That's the way to do it. Wait till you got Jamal in the right seat, and then let him have it. So anyway,
right.
Thank you, Jamal.
You're quite welcome. I got to go. Just one last thing.
Okay.
Considering to the listening audience out there, considering how easy it can be conversational. Be encouraged to go out there and share Jesus. Even if you have a negative response, I almost guarantee you 99 of the responses will be positive. So be encouraged, make it conversational. It'll be comfortable. It'll be easier each time you do it. Thank you, guys. Take care, and God bless.
Thank you. And I couldn't agree more with what Clayton was saying. I know you believe, Dr. Carson, and what I know Jamal believes is, the more you pray about this, the more God gives you the desire to do it. That He opens up that opportunity, and even you're not necessarily a Stu, and you're not. And it's interesting that He kind of puts you in that position that you can do it your way, and just for the people that He has for you. And so when we come back, we would love for you to call us, 866, we really would, 866-348-7884. You may have something that could change lives, share it, 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
How do you share Christ? What are some of the opening words that you feel comfortable sharing? Or maybe you have another idea along the lines of what's important, obviously prayer and those kind of things. But I would love to know, and again, I'm sure everybody listening would love to know something that you've employed that worked for you, or you got to see the fruit of it, and what a testimony to share on the air, like how it was that you got to see that happen. We would love for you to call 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And so as always, not as always, but often I get a chance to do this with my good friend, Dr. Dwayne, date the word Carson, and this strategy that he and his son have, the table idea is genius. I'm just saying, was that your idea or was that his, Doc?
No, that was his idea, and he did start utilizing this. We go back to March the 16th, 316, challenging pastors to preach John 3:16 on March the 16th. The week before that, to invite people to come to church, they went to a supermarket and they got permission and then set the table up there and put that sign up. And, what a neat idea. Hey, tell us your birthday, and we're going to give you a gift. And part of that gift would be you give them that birthday verse. And then from there comes that next question. So you told me your physical birthday. Do you happen to have a date for your spiritual birth? And it just leads right in where then, based on how they give that answer, they may say, I don't know my spiritual birthday, but I've been born again. They know what that second birth means, but they may not know the date. Others immediately, and I'll tell you that one of the reasons some of this started sparking with me was I had a man one time down at the Billy Graham Library. I asked him when his birthday was, and he gave me 8/15. And I thought, man, 8/15, what a great birth date, because that's Romans 8:15, where the Spirit of God causes us to cry out, Abba, Father, because we've been adopted into the family of God. And he looked at me, he said, that really is a great verse for my birthday, because that's my second birth date verse then. I was saved on 8/15. He didn't give me his physical birthday. He gave me his spiritual birthday. And I guess he was looking to see if he could use that to witness to me. I don't know, but it was pretty cool. And that's how we got to thinking, ask someone, what do you have a date for your second birth? For me, I was February the 15th when I got saved, 1983. But my wife, Danita, she doesn't remember the exact date that she was saved. But she knows about being born again. She knows she asked the Lord to save her.
That's amazing. And it's so cool, right? That God gave you that. And it really is given this opportunity for so many to employ this, especially if you get to date the word app. And it's just an easy way to use that and get the verses just like Clayton was describing. Well, we got Mike is in Dayton, Ohio. So, Mike, you're on Truth Talk Live. And I know it's something you do all the time, so I would love your strategy.
Well, I pray for police officers all the time. I love doing that. I like going right up to them and having a conversation with them. I don't know why I get along with them so much, but or have a respect for them, but I do. And if I see them sitting somewhere, I just go up there and start talking to them. That's what I do. The other day, there was a young man at a gas station. I'm pumping my gas, and he's sitting there with a bunch of clothes and a bunch of backpacks. And I went up to him, and I said, what's going on? Why are you all packed up? And why are you sitting here? He says, I'm waiting on an Uber, and I'm a little bit homeless and stuff like that. And I says, wow. I says, I bet it's hard to be homeless. And he says, yeah, I'm getting ready to go to a hotel and do this. And then I reach in my pocket and give him a 20. He says, no, you don't need to do that. I says, I want to, man. I want to help you out. And that led for me to tell him that life is like a vapor, man. I can't believe I'm 60 years old already. And you're a young man. And I'm telling you, when you die, you want to know where you're going to go, don't you? He says, yeah, I go to church. I said, well, that's not the answer. I said, that's not the answer. The answer is, and, I gave him John 3:16, and he was real receptive. And the Uber driver, you know how the devil loves to get involved. The Uber driver pulls up, and I looked at the Uber driver, and I said, sir, I'll pay you whatever it takes. Hold on, I need to keep conversation with this guy. And so I went back to the guy, and I had a longer conversation, and I gave him some scripture verses, like the Romans Road, and he was very receptive, and that was really cool. It's in your heart. When it's in your heart, and you pray in the morning and say, God, lead me today, guide me through this life, Lord. Show me what you want me to do today. Use me, Lord, in Jesus' name. And you pray that every morning, and you pray that before you go to work, and you pray that before you go someplace. It's amazing how much God will use you, because it's right there in your heart, and you just want to use your heart to witness to people, and they really are receptive because they see it in you. They see the joy in you, and they see that you have this confidence of not in this world but the next one. So.
Yeah, Mike, I've known several people in my life. The one that comes to mind, I actually wrote an article about him years ago. It was called Prayed Up, Packed Up, and Ready to Go. His name was Lester Cranfield, and he was a truck driver. It was his occupation, and just a great big guy, and still running strong when he was in his 80s. And every morning he prayed diligently. I mean, it was a very, very sincere prayer that he would pray, God, give me somebody today that I can share my story with. And his story was very unique. I'll give you the very Reader's Digest version of it. Is he was an alcoholic and known to mistreat his wife because of that. And one night he went to the bar and he ordered a drink. And when he picked it up, from his standpoint, he heard an audible voice of God say, "This is your last chance. Put that down." And so Lester, he took it as like, okay, I will. And as a result, there was a church there in Davie County called Deadman Baptist. He went to that church. They led him to Christ, and he began to change his life a lot. And he became the nicest guy. He was one of the saints of saints I ever knew. And there was rarely a day, because I would see him most days. He ran cars for us at the dealership. There was rarely a day that he wouldn't come up to me, Robby, I ran into a guy today, and he would tell me how he shared his story. It was because his heart was so sincere. Like, man, he was that was his thing. He loved to pray that, and he loved for God to give him that opportunity. And because of that, he got him.
I have too. I really have. So,
go ahead, Dr. Carson. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too.
Well, what you just said, Mike, and what you just said, Robby, a lot of times our lives are going to be hit every day with some kind of interruption. Something happens that interrupts our day. And if you prayed, like you talked about it there, Mike, and you told about this guy, Robby, praying that way, you begin to anticipate not these horrible interruptions, but these divine appointments.
Right.
God begins to set up divine appointments. Paul said in Philippians 1:12, the things that have happened unto me have fallen out rather for the furtherance of the gospel. Paul saw his situations as opening doors, and one of the situations he was in, he had become a prisoner that was chained to Roman soldiers, and he was using the opportunity to have a different soldier each day to share the gospel with. So I love that mindset of every day I'm praying, Lord, bring somebody across my path. And for me right now, it's somebody that'll come across my path that I can ask them when their birthday is so I can get to, do you have a date for your second birth?
That's so cool. And I have to give you the end of the story because it touches me just to think about Lester, because I happened to be there. Or I got the call that Lester had a heart attack, and I rushed to Forsyth Hospital. His wife was in transit from like Pennsylvania somewhere. She couldn't get there. I came with his son. And at the time, they were rushing him into emergency heart surgery. And you can imagine the pain that he was in. It was the last moments of his life. And as he came down the hall, you know, the people said, I don't know that he'll be able to talk. He's in a lot of pain. But he saw me and he saw his son. He put the biggest Lester Cranfield smile on his face you ever saw in your life. I mean, it was as big as all outdoors. And he looked at me and he said, Robby, I'm prayed up, packed up, and ready to go.
There you go.
Those were his last words. I mean, they really were. And I you know, it was just like, you go, Lester. I mean, that was how he rolled, and he rolled, man. I was one of those things that I, got to see. But he lived his life that way. And I know there's a lot of people that got a chance themselves to be prayed up, packed up, and ready to go because Lester shared with them. And the same with you, Mike. And we got a lot of listeners out there that we would love to hear how you do it. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. So I'm very curious, Dr. Carson, because I know you walked with Jerry Falwell for so long. How did he do it?
I go back to a word that Clayton used, intentional. There are people who tell stories of him coming down to the supermarket, and he would just stand there and, first off, hand out tracts. But then he would engage people with, so where are you going to church? And
that's
when we come back to the break,
yeah, wait, no, you heard that.
About that.
But we need your call, 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
Truth Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live today. How do you share Jesus? How do you share Christ? I would love to know, how you do that. Some of maybe an experience you've had with that, or maybe how it was done with you. You thought that was obviously miraculous. I'll bet that, God came in through somebody or some strategy that made you feel like, oh, hey, I hadn't thought of that. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And so thankful, Dr. Carson, for the Date the Word app and this opportunity to really engage people in a really fun way. And I've been with Dr. Carson numerous times out to eat, and you can just count on it. Like you can count on the fact Stu's going to ask somebody to put their window down. You can count on the fact. You can count on the fact that Dr. Carson's going to ask a waitress when her birthday is, and then you get to see it all, in living color how it happens. And what I have seen is so much more than just simply a sharing Jesus moment. It isn't that cut and dried, even close. It's actual compassionate conversation about some of the things that's going on in that person's life, and an opportunity to actually wait on somebody that cares about them, because Dr. Carson does. And, you know, I think about that time it was your birthday. And we went to that restaurant, and man, that waitress was so excited. She went and shared it with several of the other people that were at other tables. Next thing you knew, we were doing birthday verses all over the restaurant.
Yeah, and you just never know how that door will open. It happened on a plane one time with a flight attendant, and she said she went back and told her friend and came up and said, "Hey, my friend's birthday is 5/15. Do you have a birthday verse for her?" I said, "Well, absolutely." And I gave it to her. Next thing I know, that lady came up, and she said, "The verse you gave me is absolutely perfect. Would you pray for me?" Well, I said, "Sure." "No, would you pray for me right now?" She wanted me to stand up right there on the plane and pray for her as she was dealing with a difficult situation. It's like, way to go, God. I would have never been able to have any of that ministry and be a blessing to this person without having asked, "When's your birthday?" And the Date the Word app is so easy to get. It's totally free, and all the person has to do is go onto their app store and type in Date the Word. And don't just type in date. You might get yourself in trouble there. Date the Word, not the world. And then on the app, you'll see verses for any date. And what I tell people to do, Rob, is always go to their birthday first. Go see what their birthday verses are. Pick the one that they like. I like 1 Samuel 12:23 for 12:23. And then you just stay available. Lord, is there somebody you want me to ask today? When's your birthday? And then you share that verse with them, and then go from there to say, do you have a date for your second birth? And who knows the kind of fellowship you will have if there's Christians, and who knows the kind of reward you're going to have if they're not, and you get to share the gospel with them.
Yeah, it really is, and you get to share life with them. And rather than
you asked about Dr. Falwell, and in my soul winning file, I have a story. It says in 1958, a young single pastor walked into a hotel lobby in downtown Lynchburg, and he talked to my parents about attending his newly formed church congregation. His name was Jerry Falwell. He took time to befriend my dad, who was an alcoholic and wanted nothing to do with church. Never giving up, they became great friends. And Dad gave up drinking, got saved, and joined his church. Dr. Falwell then made him an usher, and we all started attending church. I then followed my dad. I got saved. And if Jerry Falwell hadn't taken time with my dad, chances are I would have traveled down a very dark and destructive road. Instead, I got saved, married a beautiful Christian girl, and had 3 awesome daughters who are all married to Christian men who are serving the Lord. How's that for a story?
That's beautiful, right? And it's still one-on-one, you know, whether your name's Jerry Falwell or
intentional,
right?
Being friendly. What's happening with your life? I've used the question before Date the Word. Have you thought about becoming a Christian? And I just throw that question out there. Have you thought about becoming a Christian? It's like what Stu's question. What do you think about Jesus? What Jamal said. The key is have some kind of question that will get a conversation started in the direction that then you can share with them the best news ever.
Right. Or I remember the famous, do you believe in Easter? Right.
Mm.
And, there's a whole story that was written up on that. It was absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to remember the name of the author of it, but it had to do with a lady by the name of Edith Easter, and that was her deal. She would ask everybody that, and that would lead to those conversations, because for her, Easter was the day that made all the difference, and it really is. And so it's there. And I was hoping that we'd have more, and we still have time to get one more in at least. And so you got to call us 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. So you have that type of evangelism, undoubtedly, where you are meeting somebody that you have never met before, and it's totally what you might call this time of year cold turkey, right, Doctor?
Yep. Sometimes you have cold turkey.
But then you have all these other folks that you've met and you work with, and you're around them every single day. And it's not a cold conversation, but it's still, you've never had that moment. And I was visiting with a lady in our congregation, and she had her best friend. She'd known her for 40 years. And she said, Robby, I just don't know how to ask her that question. I said, hey, it's time to date the word. I said, simple enough. You just ask her when her birthday is, or when your birthday is. And so if you know when her birthday is, just say, hey, I thought about your birthday, and I got a birthday verse for you. And when she gives that, then say, how about your spiritual birthday? When was that? And she says, what you talking about, Willis? then you'll know that, man, Houston, we might have a problem here. Or, you have an opportunity to dig into what that means, and you must be born again. It's beautiful. So the thing I love about it, it doesn't have to be in any way, shape, or form something from somebody you never talked before. But all those people in your life, you really don't know where they stand. And you don't want to find out when you're in the hospital and they're in a coma that you don't know where they stand. And so, what's a way to find out where they stand? For years I used the classic, if you died today, do you know for sure which way you're going? And a lot of people struggle with that.
I remember hearing that question, interestingly, when I was with a man who was going to witness to somebody else. And when he asked that question, I didn't know what the answer was. If you were to die right now, do you know for sure you're going to heaven? And I'm like, well, I don't. And if you stood before Peter at St. Peter's gate and he asked you, why should I let you into heaven, what would you say? And again, I was dumbfounded.
Right.
Because I hadn't really, I was just trying to figure out this thing called Christianity. But the evangelism explosion was one of the best ways of getting that opening question started.
Yeah, because I had the unfortunate experience of somebody I loved and worked with for years that I did not know how they stood, and found out once they were in a coma. As I asked his wife, did Johnny know Jesus? I don't think so, Robby. And best friend, no, I don't think so. And there he was, right? And it made me reevaluate my relationships to go, man, I don't want anybody to face a life without God, a life of torment, of not one person that cares anything about you. Can you imagine? Not one kind word, not one drink of water. It's more than anybody. And so when there's somebody that you've worked with and you love, or you've known all your life and you don't know where they stand, we got to have something. God help us. And prayer is at the heart of it. I really think, Doc, is just say, God, give me something.
Yeah. Romans 10:1, the Apostle Paul said, my heart's desire and prayer is that Israel would be saved. Now, he used the national component, Israel. I teach the Romans 10:1 principle. Take out the word Israel and put in that name of a person that you want to see saved.
Beautiful.
My
Absolutely.
heart's desire is to see a sister, brother, and you put that name in and you start praying for them to be saved. And then use the Date the Word method.
Ah, amazing. Go to Date the Word, and you can get the Date Word app. Pretty easy at the App Store. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.